Welcome to Walking Through Mark, and this is episode 21. And if you are interested in reading when I read along with me, it will be Mark chapter 10 and verse 32. I'll read from there in just a moment. Mark chapter 10, verse 32. I might set up the reading by saying that we are and have been actually for the last chapter or two within the last few hours, few days at the most, of the life of Jesus. I know the book Mark is 16 chapters and we're only about halfway through, and so you might think we're still halfway to the end, and really we're not. Approximately half of the book of Mark deals with the last few days of his life, and of course the resurrection and such like afterwards. And so this is chapter 10, verse 32. Now they were on the road going up to Jerusalem, and Jesus was going before them, and they were amazed. And as they followed, they were afraid. Then he took the 12 aside again and began to tell them the things that would happen to him. Behold, we're going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be betrayed to the chief priests and to the scribes, and they will condemn him to death and deliver him to the Gentiles, and they will mock him and scourge him and spit on him and kill him. And the third day he will rise again. The story continues, but let me just stop here to say we've heard this before. Maybe not quite to this detail, but we've heard this before, meaning this is not something abruptly that has developed. And I don't want to just repeat everything that I said in a previous video of this Walking Through Mark series, but we just are once again made aware of how known and planned and or thought out this is, and I think I will take it a little farther than I did previously. If you've not heard that, I would encourage you to go back and pick up on it. But previously we said, or I said, about what is indicated by Jesus about his coming death, that it was then no development, no surprise, no tragic hold up to his scheme or plan or that which God is doing, and they didn't have to quickly go to plan B because plan A doesn't look like it's going to work. None of that's true, as much as many people claiming to be Christians say today to the contrary. Okay, what I think I will expand on, though, a little more than what I did then, was this, and that is, and I think it was pretty obvious as I was reading, but let me just go back and say about it. Did you notice how detailed it is? And I won't read it all again, but I'll just quickly glance. They'll scourge, they'll spit, he'll be condemned, they'll deliver him to the Gentiles or the Romans. He knows step by step what's about to happen. And it's been known of God, known of Jesus even. You know, I say that you might automatically think, well, if it's known of God, it's known of Jesus. There were some things on earth that Jesus did not have knowledge of, and it was God's will that it be that way. He talks about in another place in the scripture about how the exact day I can't reveal, but I can give you signs leading up to it. Only the Father knows the exact day, and such like that I believe having to do with the destruction of Jerusalem. So that's why I say that God the Father might know something the Son doesn't, but in this case they very much are not on the same page. They know both the same thing, it appears to be, as they describe just how much they know about how Jesus' life, earthly life, physical life, will come to an end. And then one more thing, and the third day he'll rise again. And it's like, what? And he's telling the apostles this is not something he's being, or Mark is revealing that Mark says that Jesus knew, but nobody around him heard him speak of. But rather, he's speaking of this to the 12 again, meaning I've told you before, I want to tell you again, and this, when it happens, should not catch you off guard or surprised, but it will. It will, nonetheless. All right, reading on, verse 35. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him saying, Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. And he said to them, What do you want me to do for you? they said to him, grant us that we may sit, one on your right hand and the other on your left, in your glory. But Jesus said to them, you do not know what you ask. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, and be baptized with the baptism that I'm baptized with? They said to him, we're able. So Jesus said to them, you will indeed drink the cup that I drink, and with the baptism I'm baptized with, you'll be baptized. But to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it is for those for whom it is prepared. And when the 10 heard it, they began to be greatly displeased with James and John. But Jesus called them to himself and said to him, you know that those who are considered rulers over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. Yet it shall not be so among you, but whoever desires to become great among you shall be your servant, and whoever of you desires to be first shall be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. Now, there's a lot here. Let me just single for our attention, or for our thought, a couple items. First of all, notice how off track the apostles are. Now, you might expect it could be so of some disciples that were not as closely attached to Jesus as the apostles were. I'm not saying that it was impossible. I'm just saying you might understand that being so. These are the apostles that for some 3 years have been intimately connected with Jesus. Basically, we'd say daily, and not only witnessing but hearing, and they're still so slow on the take about the nature of the kingdom. Yeah, it's amazing. It gives hope to all of us, of course. You and me, who might be exactly not the quickest to pick up on things, join the list of others who've been likewise. So anyway, to the point they made, James and John, trying to get, we might say, a quick inside move to get a favorable position in the coming kingdom, being off track in more ways than one, probably, about the nature of the coming kingdom, say, basically, I'm putting it in my own words, can we have the first and second positions in your government? Can we be like, Secretary of State and Vice President or whatever? That's not what the positions we call, but I'm just likening it to our modern day government or American government. Anyway, and his response is interesting. And you can't help but think that he's revealing something here by asking, first of all, it in the form of a question, can you be drinking the cup I'm going to be drinking? Can you be baptized with the baptism? He knows the answer, but once, I've said this before, sometimes he asks questions not because he wants to know anything as much as he wants to hear them respond, and them to hear themselves respond, and he then have an occasion to react to that. And they quickly, oh yeah, we can do that. I don't know if it was quite that cavalierly said, but it almost appears to me in reading it that James and John are quick to say, yeah, sure. And well, he does grant that they will. And I don't think he's talking about the baptism of water. That's already been 3 years prior. Jesus was baptized, and I'm assuming that James and John have been baptized as well. So this is a baptism of persecution or suffering or fire or that kind of thing. Not a water baptism, I don't think. And the cup, for sure. We know that Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, now that's coming up, we're not there yet, but he says in the Garden of Gethsemane, can you drink, or how does he word it? Let this cup, he says to God the Father, let this cup pass from me. And he's obviously talking about just the whole ordeal of the cross and that which surrounds it. Such an awful ordeal as it was. He calls it a cup. And here, I think that's probably what's being alluded to as well. He then responds, and you shall. And they did. The apostles, in a major way, would drink that cup of suffering, and the baptism of fire or the baptism of persecution and so forth would be upon them in a similar way to Jesus. But with regard to this request about power positions, it's not for me to be just assigning them. me. Sure, Peter. Yeah, you. Oh, sure, John. Yeah, yeah. Okay, no, you take that position. This is for whom it's prepared, and the preparation is coming to those that are servants. Even himself being even himself being the epitome or epitomizing what that is all about. I, the greatest, how does he call himself? The Son of Man, he says in verse 45, even I did not come here to be served, but to serve. And if that's the case with me, it'll obviously need to be the case with you. So they understood that power positions in the world were granted by appointment. This will be coming through service that's rendered. You'll be great when you're the servant and slave of all. Okay, let's read the remainder of the chapter and then we will close. Now they came to Jericho. As he went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great multitude, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the road begging. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Then many warned him to be quiet, but he cried out all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. So Jesus stood and commanded him to be called. Then they called the blind man, saying to him, be of good cheer, rise, he's calling you. And throwing aside his garment, he rose and came to Jesus. So Jesus answered and said to him, what do you want me to do for you? The blind man said to him, Rabboni, that I may receive my sight. Then Jesus said to him, go your way, your faith has made you well. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus on the road. Mark loves to tell stories about things Jesus did or things that happened, incidents in his life. And here we go with another miracle. Bartimaeus is his name. The word bar is the idea of son of. So Mark says Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus. He was there sitting. He's not in the group, maybe because there's no person to lead him. He's blind. For whatever reason, he's sitting there. He's not walking in the group. And there's a great multitude, Mark says in verse number 46, a great multitude. This could be, I'm not exaggerating, 5, 10, 15,000 people. And I keep saying it, but I'll say it again. The reason I say that is because we hear the number of people who call a multitude are fed with a little bit of food, bread and fishes, and on one occasion like 5,000. Well, we learn that multitude doesn't mean 50, at least when a number is given. And so there's a likelihood. Now, we're not told a number here, but we're told it's not just a multitude, it's a great multitude. My imagination, and I know that's all it is, it's just my imagination, could be picturing if it's a great multitude, it could be 15, 20, 25,000 people. This is a lot of people that are moving along. And as they're going to Jericho, as they went out of Jericho, they're moving towards Jerusalem, by the way. That'll be borne out next time we have a video, chapter 11. But they're heading that way, generally speaking. This blind man, Bartimaeus, sitting, not walking, not along with the group of... Let me just stop. Can you imagine the commotion of just 25 people just talking? I don't mean yelling and screaming and singing loud and all of that, but they're just... Even the commotion of 20 or 25,000, and I know I'm just making up that number, but a great multitude of people, just the commotion of them walking without anybody saying anything. And I sort of doubt that was the case. There's got to be conversations and so forth. When it indicates that he was shouting, he began to cry out. And this is once again, this is just me picturing it and imagining it. He had literally just a few seconds to have his cry be heard, to be in earshot, to have Jesus surrounded by, we're not talking 50 people, thousands of people surrounding him, moving through, and he's sitting. He's off by the side. He's not going along with them, continuing to call out and cry out and pester Jesus, if you will, with desire that he has, but rather he has instantly, it's gone. Amazing. He's crying out, Son of David, have mercy on me. Son of David, have mercy on me. Now that we we can say, son of David? What? The son of David reference seems to be here a reference to King David, who 1,000 years before Jesus lived, and was a man after God, a sinful man, but a man after God's own heart, and God looked on his heart and wanted him to be king after Saul. And everybody's heard of David and Goliath, but he was more than just that. But he was a great man in their Israelite history. Well, anyway, God had made a promise that there would come one to sit on his throne forever, and that was the coming Christ or Messiah. This man seems to know that. I mean, at least he's calling him correctly, the son of David, Jesus. He knows his name. He knows his name. I don't know how, but he knows his name, Jesus, son of David. Now, we can wonder if that caught Jesus' attention, meaning, who's calling me son of David? Like, you don't hear that every day, or what? But nonetheless, he was heard. It was not, though, before some people told him to cut it out. Stop making such a scene, a commotion. Shh, shut up, man, and so forth. But he wouldn't stop, and he kept on calling. Finally, Jesus stops. He stops and says, "Tell him to come here." And they go and bring him. And then one more thing, and I'll stop. What do you want me? What do you want me to do for you? Oh, me. Pardon me saying things over and over, but it's because they keep coming up over and over. I'm not trying to be repetitive to a problem fault, but I'm just saying it comes up again. Jesus knows what he wants. He wants the man to express what he wants. He asks him, and it's the answer, of course, what he would have known he'd want, that I can see. And just like that. Just like that. Okay. You can go on your way. Your faith's made you well. And that's it. You're not going to touch my eyes. You're not going to say, anything to the heavens or whatever. No, go on your way. You're well. And he is. He's immediately able to see. Hey, these are startling things. Amazing. The Bible talks about signs, wonders, miracles, and the like. Oh, to me, now maybe it's just me, but all these miracles that are recorded are wonders. They are so wonderful indeed. Okay, I've enjoyed reading and talking about these things with you today. If you have opportunity, join me next time. I think it'll be Wednesday coming up. We'll do another Walking Through Mark.